Good evening, I'm Faye Kwan, and these are our top stories for tonight. Donald Trump cuts India's tariffs to 18%, and NATO's Mark Rutte meets Volodymyr Zelensky in Ukraine. All that and more coming up on AWANI International. US President Donald Trump has announced a trade deal with India, cutting tariffs on Indian goods to 18%. In return, Trump says Prime Minister Narendra Modi agreed to stop buying Russian oil as Washington pushes for an end to the war in Ukraine. Trump had previously imposed a 25% reciprocal tariff on Indian goods, plus an additional 25% penalty over New Delhi's purchases of Russian fuel. Modi welcomed the lower levies, but made no mention of halting Russian oil imports. Trump had also claimed in October that Modi would stop buying Russian oil, a deal that did not materialize at the time. India's continued buying of Russian crude has been a major point of tension for months, as Trump steps up pressure on partners to cut Moscow's revenue streams. In a visit to New Delhi in December, Russian President Vladimir Putin said Moscow was ready to maintain uninterrupted shipments of fuel to India. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte arrived in Ukraine today for talks with President Volodymyr Zelensky. The visit comes after Russia launched major overnight strikes involving around 450 drones and more than 60 missiles. In recent days, Russia and Ukraine had agreed to halt strikes on each other's energy infrastructure, but both sides disagreed over how long that truce should last. Now, the Kremlin says US President Donald Trump had made a personal request to Russian President Vladimir Putin to refrain from striking Kyiv until February 1st. Zelensky, however, said the truce was supposed to last for a week, starting January 30th. Those are the headlines for tonight. More news coming up shortly after the break.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro AWANI menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
Buli di sekolah. Isu ini bukan perkara baru.
Buli tertakluk kepada perbuatan agresif secara fizikal.
Apa sebenarnya jerabu punca utama yang menyumbang kepada masalah ini serta kesannya kepada kesihatan kita?
Mereka akan mengalami iritasi-iritasi kepada mata. Selain itu, iritasi kepada saluran pernafasan.
Welcome back. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian says he has instructed the country's foreign minister to pursue fair and equitable talks with the US, grounded in Iran's national interests. The remarks come as the two countries reportedly prepare to send top envoys to Istanbul for high-stakes talks on Iran's nuclear program later this week.
U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi are expected to meet in Turkey on Friday, marking the first direct talks since last April. U.S. President Donald Trump earlier has warned that failure to reach a deal could lead to serious consequences. Tehran on Monday said it's reviewing diplomatic proposals from regional mediators, including Qatar, Turkey, Egypt, and Oman, and expects a framework for talks to emerge in the coming days. But tensions remain high, with Washington reinforcing its naval and air defenses in the region, while Tehran warns that any U.S. attack would trigger a regional war.
Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te has urged Taiwan to prioritize economic cooperation with fellow democracies rather than rely on China. His remarks come as Taipei outlines plans to deepen cooperation with the U.S. in key sectors, including artificial intelligence and critical minerals. Senior Taiwanese and U.S. officials discussed collaboration on AI, technology, and drones at a high-level forum last week. The two sides signed agreements on economic security and the Pax Silica Declaration, a U.S.-led initiative aimed at securing AI and semiconductor supply chains amid rising competition with Beijing. Earlier this month, Taipei and Washington also reached a deal on the U.S. reciprocal tariff policy, allowing Taiwan to secure a reduced 15% tariff rate without additional penalties. China has refused to engage directly with Lai, branding him a separatist. Lai reiterated he remains open to dialogue with Beijing, but only on the basis of equality and mutual respect. Thailand heads into a nationwide election on Sunday, February 8th. The race has narrowed into a three-way contest between Anutin Chanvirakul's conservative Phumjai Thai Party, the former ruling Pheu Thai Party, and the Reformist People's Party. While opinion polls show the People's Party leading, analysts say the numbers alone may not translate into power.
Well, I think the electoral outcome is likely to produce yet again another fragmented House of Representatives. I see that there's a symmetrical scenario. On the one side, there are a large segment of the Thai electorate who focus on reform and change. These are the group of middle class, well-educated, and the younger generation. And on the other side, the resilience of the network politics and patronage might still remain for us to see.
Sawasdi said who will eventually hold power may be decided not at the ballot box but at the negotiating table.
The People's Party might find it very difficult to form a coalition with other parties due to its strong political stance and ideology. On the contrary, the Phumjai Thai is seen as a favorite party by network of political elites, especially the conservative networks. And Kun Anutin as sometimes seen as the pre-selected prime minister. We have seen a massive move from incumbent parties to Phumjai Thai, who emerge as the new house of the conservative. The government formation will rely more on post-election negotiation, which is the strong case for Phumjai Thai, rather than the numbers of the elections and or electoral results alone.
Donald Trump is seeking $1 billion in damages from Harvard University amid his administration's feud with the institution. In a post on Truth Social, the U.S. president accused Harvard of illegal conduct, saying the White House wants nothing to do with the university going forward. Harvard has been a key target in the administration's push to stamp out what it calls radical left ideologies in higher education. The Trump administration has also accused Harvard of failing to do enough to address anti-Semitism following pro-Palestinian protests on campus. Harvard has rejected the claim. In April last year, Trump revoked around $2 billion in research grants to Harvard and froze federal funding. The university sued the government over the move, and a federal court later overturned the funding cuts, ruling that the government had violated Harvard's free speech rights. The White House has since vowed to appeal that decision. U.S. President Donald Trump is calling on the House to end the partial government shutdown, but progress appears stalled. Democrats are demanding immigration reforms as part of any funding deal to reopen the government. Trump's immigration enforcement operations have sparked outrage after 2 citizens were fatally shot in Minnesota, and according to an analyst, this is hurting Republican support.
You know, America was with Trump when he said he wanted to deport the worst of the worst. I mean, almost all Americans say, yes, if somebody's a criminal, particularly a violent criminal, send them home, get them out of our country. Everybody agrees with that. But they seem to have morphed from the worst of the worst to anybody who was ever illegal in the United States, even if they came here 20 years ago and have been, working illegally ever since then. It's still illegal, but it is not, a lot of people don't think it's worth the aggressive tactics. In other words, treating everybody like they were a gang member or everybody like they were a drug dealer is just not, it just seems a little bit out of proportion. And I think that's where they're losing the public right now. And if I were them, I get myself out of this as quickly as possible.
And with the midterms approaching, she said scenes of violent immigration arrests and street protests pose political risks for Republicans.
So again, because of that issue is playing against the Republicans right now, and may carry over until November. But of course, remember, memories are short in politics. So who knows if it'll be a live issue in October or November? If they pull back ICE and pull back this sort of radical deportation plan, by the time we get to October or November, it may not be an issue anymore. And I think that that's what they're realizing.
In other news, Philippine lawmakers meet in Manila to decide whether impeachment proceedings against President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. should move forward, following allegations of constitutional violations and corruption. Two separate impeachment complaints filed by a lawyer and a group of civil society activists clear an initial hurdle on Monday after passing a review by the House Justice Committee.
Lawmakers ruled that both filings met procedural requirements, allowing them to proceed to further scrutiny. Marcos Jr., now halfway through his 6-year term, has rejected the accusations, maintaining that he has not violated the Constitution nor betrayed public trust. Any recommendation made by the Justice Committee will be sent to the full House of Representatives for a vote. While the chamber is dominated by political allies of Marcos Jr., the final outcome remains uncertain. If the House approves the complaints, Marcos Jr. would become only the second Philippine president to face impeachment. Former President Joseph Estrada was impeached in 2001, though his trial ended prematurely after prosecutors withdrew from the proceedings.
U.S. President Donald Trump has announced plans to create a strategic stockpile of critical minerals worth around $12 billion. The initiative, called Project Vault, includes $10 billion in funding from the U.S. Export-Import Bank, with additional investment from the private sector.
The stockpile is designed to protect American businesses from supply disruptions that have threatened access to essential minerals for years. Officials said it will help prevent shortages that could hurt U.S. workers and manufacturers. Washington has sought to counter what it calls price manipulation by China in markets for lithium, nickel, rare earth elements, and other critical minerals. These materials are vital for electric vehicles, advanced weapons, and a wide range of manufactured goods.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump says Mexico will stop sending oil to Cuba, intensifying pressure on the island nation amid an ongoing energy crisis. The U.S. president has not provided details on why he believes Mexico has halted the supplies, but his remarks come as Washington steps up its campaign to block all oil reaching Cuba.
Well, it's a failed nation now, and they're not getting any money from Venezuela, and they're not getting any money from anywhere. It's a failed nation. Mexico is going to cease sending them oil.
Mexico has long been Cuba's largest source of imported oil, stepping in after shipments from Venezuela declined amid U.S. sanctions. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said decisions on oil shipments are sovereign matters and confirmed that a planned delivery had been paused. Trump has dismissed warnings that cutting off fuel supplies could worsen Cuba's energy crisis. He said the situation doesn't have to be a humanitarian crisis and suggested that an agreement could still be reached. Mexico's support for Cuba has emerged as a new flashpoint with Washington, already strained by Trump's threats to send troops to tackle the country's cartels.
That concludes AWANI International for tonight. Stay with us as we track the strategies and power shifts shaping the new global order. For more updates, visit international.astroawani.com and follow us on social media. I'm Faye Kwan. Thank you for watching and good night.